Welcome back to the PFF NFL show. And we finally, after a long wait, have draft content for you here this week. This is the draft show, episode 1. And we have some good draft content or just off-season content on the website this week. Sam went through all 32 teams, broke down their biggest needs this offseason. We'll go through those, and we'll give you guys a sneak peek on today's episode of Steve's mock draft. Number 2, not 2.0. We got rid of the stupid naming convention there.
Did it for you, Mike. I know you hate that.
Mock draft 2. It's going to be up on the website tomorrow, Thursday, January 18th. This is coming to you on Wednesday, so we're giving you guys a preview before that goes up. We're going to roll through all 32 of Steve's picks, hit the 2 teams also that don't have first-round picks. That would be the Texans and the Chiefs. So let's get right into it. Pick number 1, Browns. Sam, you had quarterback and corner as their biggest needs.
Yeah, so I stole Steve's idea the last time we did a 32-team needs kind of piece, which is instead of going through and only giving guys one position, if you're in the quarterback market, we're putting that as like a separate addendum. You get your quarterback. If you're not, you don't. That's a binary thing. And then we're also giving you the big team need at any other position. So the Browns are in the quarterback market. Turns out Deshaun Kaiser was not great as a rookie. There's no way they've seen anything like enough from him to go on as their main plan. There's nobody else in the roster that applies to either. So this is a team in the quarterback market, whether it's in free agency or the draft. But I think there are other positional need outside of quarterback, or the biggest of them, because let's face it, they still need a lot of things to be
They didn't
fixed.
win a game, so yeah, that makes sense.
Cornerback, I think, is the big one. We've seen with Marshawn Lattimore how much a defense can be transformed immediately by an impact number 1 corner. The Browns actually had some reasonable play with some of their corners this year, but if you give them a number 1 star right off the bat, I think that's the biggest thing you could do to transform that defense.
And at number 1, they can go with any player in the draft they want. Steve has them going, Baker Mayfield.
Baker Mayfield, quarterback from Oklahoma. We're going to be discussing him quite a bit.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know that he'll most definitely be locked in here the entire mock draft season in my life, in my world. I don't think in real life, so to speak, Baker Mayfield is the number 1 pick. But when you look at what he's done on the field from a production standpoint, and even in a favorable offense, there are enough NFL throws in his game that say, okay, this guy can do it. Tight window throws, anticipation, his accuracy, pocket feel when he needs to show it, even though he's got a lot of clean pockets. So Baker's been just outstanding for Oklahoma, and I think the NFL has at least come around to him as a first-round pick. I don't know if they've come around to him as the top overall pick, but we're trusting the grades on this.
That's worth saying up top, that this is a mock of what you would do or
Yes.
what you should do, not what will happen.
Yes.
Yeah, my mock's different from every other mock, which is a lot of hearsay, and I talked to this scout, and I don't really care about what the scouts say. I don't care what the team say. I don't care what lies they feed me. This is based off the information that we have, what I would do. I'm the GM of all 32 teams on this one.
Nice.
And
Promotion.
I'll say, right off the bat, don't hate the pick. I'm going to hate a lot of these, but I don't hate the pick. I love Baker Mayfield's game. 2 highest graded seasons we've ever given to a quarterback in college this season and 2016.
Not sure what you could hate, Mike, but we'll see.
He's accurate. He has the arm strength to make throws at every level of the defense. The one thing is he holds on to the ball a little bit, but he can scramble. He can make plays with his legs. I don't hate it. Number 1, you haven't screwed up yet. Let's go on to number 2, Giants. Sam, you have quarterback again for them, fairly obvious, and offensive tackle as their biggest needs.
Yeah, still in the quarterback market. Eli Manning, whether he's going to start again, he's on the downslope. Whether they burnt those bridges or not this season, if he starts there, it's going to be 1-2 years max. They never even put Davis Webb out on the field, so we don't know what he has. They did put Geno Smith out in the field. We're pretty sure what he has. So, yeah, quarterback market and offensive tackle has been a major problem anyway. As soon as the new GM, Dave Gettleman, came in, sent Bobby Hart packing. Eric Flowers is presumably on some sort of shape up or ship out last notice. Yeah. So offensive tackle to protect whoever the new quarterback is.
And Steve has them going quarterback here. Sam Darnold, USC QB, declared early. Talk about him.
Yeah, so Darnold did not excel the way I think everybody anticipated him to as a redshirt sophomore this past year. But if you really break down his game, there were 3 bad games in the middle. There was some okay games, But on both sides of it, the beginning of the year and the end of the year, he was outstanding. And I think when you look at Darnold's game, he has the high-end NFL throws that are a part of his game. He is outstanding in the middle of the field. Anticipation is incredible. Makes up for, I think he's got a good arm, not a great arm, but he doesn't need one because of that anticipation. So I just think he does a lot of things well. He's still a young player, just a redshirt sophomore, and he was so good as a redshirt freshman. There's a little bit of Jameis Winston to it, where Jameis was really good as a redshirt freshman, took a step back as a redshirt sophomore, but ultimately you're looking at that full body of work, and that's what I did with Darnold here at number 2.
I do love Darnold's arm. He makes, like you mentioned, the special throws is his calling card, and the fact he's only 28 years old still,
right.
And he'll be 20 years old when he's drafted. That's very young. When you compare Baker Mayfield's 22, he is Darnold. The potential, he's going to get that ceiling that I hate to talk about, but he's going to get that high ceiling sort of buzz going around him. And I do think when it's all said and done, he might end up being the number 1 overall pick, actually.
I could actually see him being the favorite for the Browns. I mean, the big question for him, the turnover-worthy plays, one of the highest percentages in the nation, so one of the worst in the nation. It was misreads of coverage. It was forces into coverage, and it was also a lot of bad fumbles. But I honestly look at his season and say there was a big slump in there. But overall, Darnold also has that, like, when he's coming out there in a crunch time situation, I truly believe he's going to go out there and do the job for my team.
He's also going to maintain the NFL's equilibrium of ginger talent because Carson Palmer is now retired, so Sam Darnold can step right in there and the NFL won't miss a beat.
Yeah, so next year we're looking at what? Darnold, Dalton, and Wentz battling for the ginger talent. It's going to be tough. I mean, Wentz might be hurt a little bit at the beginning of the season and might open
there might
up.
Be a lot of, there's a lot of free talent.
Free talent.
To be claimed.
Free ginger talent.
All right, so that was the Giants at number 2, Sam Darnold. Number 3 is the Indianapolis Colts, and no surprise here is their biggest offseason need, offensive line.
Yeah, they've been trying to actually rebuild it for a while now, having steadfastly ignored it for some time. They haven't done enough of a job doing that. There's a couple of players that are capable on that offensive line. There's still major holes. Right guard, right tackle. They could use help at most spots in that line. So that's the obvious one. And at this point, the health and well-being of Andrew Luck is more in question than it's ever been in the past. So you've got to try and protect the guy.
I'll just say it, though. I don't think there's a single position on this roster, besides maybe quarterback, that they couldn't address in the draft. Like, it is a need-filled roster. Steve, that's why you have them going Maurice Hurst, defensive tackle out of Michigan. Why so high on him?
Yeah, so the entire defensive side of the ball just needs playmakers, especially the front seven. Hurst was by far our top-graded defensive player this year on the interior defensive line. He is in the mold of that undersized disruptor, that guy, that Aaron Donald type. I'm not saying he's Aaron Donald, but that type that just disrupts, that penetrates into the backfield, that can hold up against double teams even though he's a little bit undersized by NFL standards. Hurst has been incredible. You know, for 2 years he was awesome as part of a defensive line rotation at Michigan. This year, ups his snap count. His production is even better through the roof. When we've got 4 years of PFF college data. This guy's been the best interior defensive lineman that we've graded as far as, just like on a per-snap basis. So Maurice Hurst, I truly believe he's going to translate. I think we might be a little higher on him than the rest of the NFL, but watch at the Senior Bowl when he dominates because the guy's unbelievable.
Yeah, this one's interesting to me because Hurst, like you mentioned, the grade is out of this world. 604 snaps this year, 96.8 overall grade. That's fantastic. And then the only thing I can think, like a lot of people there's not a lot of top 5, top 10 buzz on him from what I've seen around the NFL, but in my opinion, he is the only defensive lineman I've seen that is worthy of that sort of buzz in this class. It might be because he's a little slight, like he's might be in the 280s for defensive tackle, but it's like I don't care about run defense anymore in the NFL. Like I really don't. Like holding up to double teams is great if you can do it, but if you can't and you can rush the passer like he can, I don't really care. That's not going to bother me. It's not going to stop me from taking you top 5.
It's one thing that I think we do talk about that a lot of other evaluators maybe don't talk about as much. We're trying to look at it from a team building standpoint a little bit more and positional value standpoint, and I'm with you. I think that's going to be a common theme as we talk about the draft. This entire season is focusing on the pass game more than the run game.
I mean, you have to learn the lesson from Aaron Donald, which is Aaron Donald was 285. He is the most disruptive interior defensive tackle, defensive end in the NFL, at which point if a guy comes up again who is pushing your boundaries of how heavy he needs to be in the middle, 285, 280, it's time that we give him the benefit of the doubt because he's
Yes.
been so ridiculously productive that, like, until we see that he can't do it, it's worth taking the shot.
Yeah, I 100% agree there. All right, on to the Browns. Again, number 4 overall pick. We've already broke down their needs. So Steve has them addressing the other need at the number 4 overall pick. Although, is it really with Minkah Fitzpatrick here? The Alabama safety/corner hybrid. Is this another Jabril Peppers on their hands?
No, it's not a Jabril Peppers. I think
kidding.
it's closer to a Jalen Ramsey situation, and I'm not saying Minkah is Jalen Ramsey. I think Jalen Ramsey was and is an outstanding football player and a freak athlete when you talk about his size and length and everything he brings to the table. Minkah might not have that same level of athleticism, but the way I would have treated Ramsey coming out was say, look, he only has 1 year of playing outside cornerback. I know that he could play in the slot. I know that he could play safety. So we're going to go positional value. Try him at outside corner. If he lands in the slot or lands at safety, I think you're getting a very, very good player at either of those positions. I think that's what we're looking at with Minkah. He hasn't played a ton of outside corner, but if he does, I mean, I think you give him a shot to develop there. And if he doesn't, then you have that all-around slot player. He was the number 4 graded run defender among all corners this year. That's very similar to Jalen when he was in college. He was one of the top had one of the top grades against the run. He can rush the passer and, of course, can cover slots or could cover some of those big slots. So I think you're getting a very, very good football player, and you try him at the position of highest value, which is outside corner.
You mentioned he didn't play a lot of snaps on the outside, and that's very true. He only had 13 snaps this year as a perimeter corner. That's worrisome to me because now I love slot cornerbacks in the NFL. I think that is a very valuable position. I think that's a more valuable position even than someone like a safety. But at the same time, outside cornerback is still, in my opinion, more valuable than slot. And it's like I just don't know if he can do it yet. I'm not doubting it because the talent is there. The skills are there, but he hasn't done it yet. So that's just the only worry about me taking a guy like that, number 4 overall.
I think it's interesting that if you get a guy that can be a Tyrann Mathieu type of slot corner, that may be as valuable to me as an outside guy. The question is, how much time are you going to lose while you discover what it is he can do? So, if you play him outside for a year and he struggles there, it takes you a year and a half to work out that's not what he is. Then he has to adjust playing inside, and you almost lose half of his contract figuring out what he can do. If you come in right away with the idea of, right, I know this guy can be my version of Tyrann Mathieu. We're not even going to try and dabble playing him outside. We're going to put him here, play to what he does well, and he hits the ground running and just dominates from the get-go. Then I think you easily hit that kind of position value threshold that you need to take him that high.
Oh, so you and I might treat it a little bit differently in how we would use him. My one minor concern, he wasn't as good this year as he was in previous years. 84.8 overall grade, good, not great, but his 3-year production is excellent, and I think he'll live up to the hype that he's getting.
Yeah, I still think he's a talented football player. My worry is just about your number 4 overall. That's you need a impact player. So I'm not sure he's that, but I think he's definitely a big step. He's definitely different in terms of his hybrid value than someone like a Jabril Peppers who didn't actually have a position. Minkah Fitzpatrick has a position. So we'll see where he ends up when it's all said and done. On to number 5, Denver Broncos. Sam, you have him obviously with quarterback again, and offensive line as a need. Talk about why here.
Yeah, quarterback was a disaster for the Broncos this year. They only needed average quarterback play, and between the 3 of them, they couldn't combine to do that. Whatever they did was horrendous. The only guy they have there that even has a future, you would think, with the team is Paxton Lynch, and that is very much in question given that he's a former.
And it's like by default because you don't throw away first round.
Exactly, yeah. Former first-round pick, and even at this stage, they must be pretty seriously thinking that they're done with that experiment. So they need to find a quarterback. Because they've been burned with the Paxton Lynch thing, I think there's a pretty good chance they address that in free agency rather than the draft. But again, their other issue is the offensive line. It doesn't matter to an extent who the quarterback is if you have the worst right tackle situation in the league, which they've had for several years now. They drafted Garrett Bowles last year to fix left tackle, but that offensive line still needs work.
Yeah. Menelik Watson, Donald Stevenson, Alan Barber combined for 16 sacks. The season ago.
Menelik, according to my numbers here, finished at 9.
But yeah, that's because they didn't let him get any higher. All right, Steve, you had them going number 5 overall. Josh Rosen.
So quarterback from UCLA. I'm kind of with you, Sam. I think the Broncos might really go the free agent route. This is going to be the best offseason, I think, in years as far as just quarterback movement. It's going to be fascinating to watch. So the pre-free agent mock, we got to fit those needs when you have them. If you've got a quarterback like Rosen on the board, I think he's well worth the taking at number 5. Some off-field question marks, I think, his attitude and the way he handles things. But I think on the field, intermediate thrower, probably the best, consistent intermediate thrower, has all of the throws. He can layer the ball over linebackers. He can throw back shoulders and fades. He's got touch. He has zip. Question is late in the down decision-making, I think would be maybe an understatement. Had a couple of those back across your body passes for easy pick 6 opportunities. Has to cut down on those, but he has throughout his career. So he's got some volatility to his game, but as far as making pure NFL-style throws, Rosen has it. And, on the field, PFF grade-wise, has continued to improve through the years. So I think Rosen's well worth a shot here.
Yeah, I think they just almost have to. Isn't it like the needs here at the top of the draft are so insane at the quarterback position that I'm not I'm not 100% sold on any of these guys, but they're just going to have to go. Like they're going to have to. These teams are all going to have to select quarterback because Broncos can't roll into 2018 with Paxton Lynch and Trevor Siemian again. You're going to get fired if you're John Elway.
To quote our friends over at the PFF Forecast, your new PFF podcast with George Trevor and Eric Eager, we were talking about quarterbacks this all offseason. Another phrase I'll be using all draft season. It's like the upside, the potential of hitting on a quarterback is so much more valuable than what you lose by missing on him. Like, do you lose a 5th overall pick if you miss? Yes. But if you hit on him, or if you hit on your Russell Wilson, if you hit on your Dak, if you hit on your Carson Wentz, if you hit on Goff, if you believe in him, then you're good. And it's 20 times more valuable than how bad it would be if you miss. So it's just you got to take these guys. You got to take chances sometimes.
Yeah, and I also don't think this is a transcendent. This isn't 2011 or even last year where there's not these Hall of Famers at the top of the draft. There's not a lot of high level talent I'm seeing at the top of the draft where
as far as like non-quarterbacks,
like the Myles Garrett, the guys you're gonna pass up because they're sure things at their respective positions that are gonna make me want to pass on a QB for. So yeah, I can get on board with Josh Rosen there. Number 6, Jets quarterback, another need here, as well as edge defender.
Yeah, I'm not convinced that Christian Hackenberg is going to come off the bench and be the savior of the Jets' quarterback problems.
Shocking take, Sam.
So, Josh McCown had a career year and was still average at best, plus he's very, very old. So he's, going to be out of the picture at some point. Bryce Petty was pretty bad when he came in to start those last few games, and Christian Hackenberg couldn't beat him out. So, yeah, the Jets need a quarterback again.
Still have potential, though. I mean, that potential's just been building while he's on the bench.
It's
even more potential.
It's been maturing like a fine wine as he sits on the bench. Another team that has quite a few holes and could do with players to bolster several positions, but I think they could do with a real impact edge rusher. I don't think they've had one of those for a number of years, and it's been a real problem with that defense. There's just nobody getting consistent pressure there.
Yeah, that really has been a problem. It's all been interior guys, no quick pressure, which is what you want in the NFL. Steve, you have them going Lamar Jackson, wide receiver out of Louisville. Oh, did I say wide? I meant quarterback out of Louisville.
Oh, no.
A wide receiver. Look, that'll be a fun discussion, draft season. Most of the people, I don't see why you would ever put him at wide receiver for the reasons I just mentioned about Rosen. The value of him hitting as a quarterback is just so immense and so high. And I know he's not a perfect quarterback. I know he's going to miss some throws. I'm sticking to this Michael Vick comp, which is for 3 specific reasons, guys. It's the fact that he can make special throws, like Vick. Vick had more of a cannon, but he can make special throws. He has legitimate athleticism that will play at the next level. I really think that, like Vick in 2006 when he ran for 1,000 yards, you could see Lamar Jackson put up a 1,000-yard rushing season. For whatever that's worth, I could see that happening. And then they're going to miss throws. They're going to be a little inaccurate. But I think the big plays that they create with their legs or with the downfield passing game will offset that. And I'll use the phrase, you could build an offense around him. That's what we have with Lamar Jackson. He's different from Darnold. He's different from Rosen, different from Mayfield. But you can build an offense around him.
We still haven't really seen an offensive coordinator in the NFL go all in on a quarterback as a running option. Where every single run play is an option or the quarterback keeping it himself. We really still haven't yet to see that, whereas some offenses in colleges, that's the case. I think with Lamar Jackson, you might finally see it. I at least hope so, because that, to me, is where his value is so immense, because him as a rushing threat is unlike any rushing threat we've seen at the quarterback position. Like even RG3, even Cam Newton, he is better than those guys as a runner, to where all of a sudden, like, you don't need that much out of him as a passer to get a high-level offense.
So that is why I don't really I don't like the Mike Vick comparison, or it's one of the reasons, is that I think as much as Vick's numbers are silly, I think he is a better runner than Vick. I think he's a more powerful runner than Vick and can actually run in more places than Vick. When Vick took off from the pocket, he was lethal because he got out into space quickly, and he was just quick and fast, and he would make plays happen. You can do more with how Lamar Jackson runs, because he can do all that between the tackles. He can do it out in space. He is a threat to run anywhere where he has the ball. I think that I agree with you. I think that could be, if you get him in the right offense, you can make something pretty special happen, because he is such an effective runner. He has enough of an arm and enough talent in terms of reading the field, in terms of delivering it where it needs to go, to make limited throws. He is, I think, a viable quarterback if it's not all you're asking him to do. But that is true with a bunch of these guys who have incredible athleticism and are limited as a passer. The problem is the NFL institutionally hates those guys because they don't like getting out of what they want to do to what is best for them to do. And we've seen that with Tyrod Taylor, with Kaepernick, with RG3. Although RG3, part of that was him not wanting to do that. But time and time again, we see the NFL reluctant to embrace that and to do what needs to be done to make those guys successful. But I agree with you. I think if some team did, you could generate something truly spectacular with him.
Yeah, two things that need to be different from Michael Vick. Vick was not good at sliding, first of all, and protecting himself. RG3 was not good at protecting himself. Other quarterbacks are. I think Colin Kaepernick was great at it. I think Russell Wilson still is great at it. Lamar has to be great at avoiding the big hit, and he has that next level speed and gear that I think he can. The other part, to your point, Sam, imagine drafting Michael Vick and saying, yep, we're going to make him the next Joe Montana. He's going to be putting up West Coast offense, timing and rhythm, three-step game. I mean, Drew Brees was in that same exact draft. Why would you draft Michael Vick and put him in what Drew Brees should have been doing? Yeah. So as long as the team doesn't do that to Lamar, again, I think you could build around him.
Yeah, agreed. All right, on to number 7, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You have them with edge as the biggest need, Sam.
Yeah, I think so. It's been Gerald McCoy and others for some years now.
5 years.
They got the threat of some edge presence with Noah Spence. He hardly played this past year. Robert Ayers has been a productive edge player for them for a while, but he's A, getting on in age, and B, has never been a dominant edge rusher. He's not a guy.
He's kind of like a third down kick inside.
Yeah. He's not a guy that's going to terrify people as the number one pass rushing presence. So I think they just need to fix that once and for all. Get a legitimate edge rusher that can team with McCoy on that defensive line and really get after teams.
And Steve, you have them going with Florida State safety / linebacker / possibly edge rusher, Derwin James.
It's the best edge rusher in the draft.
Yeah, he probably is. He's probably the best edge rusher that the Bucs would have, too.
He definitely would be. So I don't know. I don't even want to call him safety. I just want to call him defensive playmaker this entire draft season. Derwin James. There's no real edge defender. I think that's a clean cut, top 7, top 10 type of guy. Derwin is exactly what the NFL is looking for. I mean, we've been talking all week about who's going to cover Rob Gronkowski this weekend in Jaguars New England. Derwin James is the type, from a body type, physicality, athleticism standpoint, that could potentially match up with a Gronk. So I think he's your defensive chess piece. He can rush the passer. I mean, Florida State put him at edge rusher at times, not blitzing, edge rusher, and he beats tackles one-on-one. He's great against the run. He's been our top-graded safety in 2 different years, 2015 and 2017. 2015, he was a true freshman. Last year, he was hurt. So Derwin's awesome. I think he just adds a lot of versatility to that Bucs defense. And Justin Evans, the other safety, they make a nice little combo there.
Yeah, I love Derwin. I think if you're going Derwin versus Minkah Fitzpatrick, for me, I'm going Derwin because just the high level to me is as good as it gets for Derwin James. He can play any position up the middle of that defense, and I almost think you're wasting Derwin James if you put him at the deep middle, because he can impact run and pass so much more than that. And like you said, he is the guy who can play man coverage on these tight ends that no one else seems to be able to play man coverage on. He is the answer for that. So to me, Derwin James might be the best defensive value in this draft.
We'll talk a lot more about him throughout draft season.
It's a lot of fun.
Because I could sit here for 20 minutes talking about him, but we'll save some.
Yeah. Good pick by the Bucs there, I'll say. This podcast is brought to you by our friends over at Tavour. Go to your app store right now and download the app, Tavour, Tavour. It is a beer delivery service. They delivered us some beer. We enjoyed it. You get twice daily notifications about new beer in their selection. You can choose whichever one you want. You can choose the date you want it sent to you. And like that, voila, it shows up at your door. They have beers you can't find in your area. They work with over 400 independent breweries around the world to get you the best selection possible. This isn't a Beer of the Month club. They're not shipping you beers every month and you're continually paying for. You only get the beers you want to buy. Sign up. No monthly commitments. No subscription fees. You can get it as soon as 1 week or as late as 5 weeks of delivery. All beer is shipped with one flat fee. So get yourself, stock up. Get 100 or so. I know I will. I know that's how many I drink in a normal, week to two. So go ahead. Go to your app store right now. Tavour. Download it. We think you guys will enjoy it. On to number 8, Chicago Bears. Sammy listed wide receiver at the top of their needs. No surprise there.
Yeah, they need not just one. They could use an entire wide receiving core in this offseason. And again, I think this is a team that should attack it in both free agency and the draft, particularly with this free agent class, because they need the whole core. They need every type of wide receiver you can think of they could do with one. So if they can get one or two of those guys in free agency and then allow them the flexibility of picking the best wide receiver prospect in the draft, I think that's exactly what they need to do. They've got the quarterback, in theory, in Mitch Trubisky. They've got the offensive coordinator, or the new head coach, rather, the new offensive scheme in Matt Nagy coming in to get the most out of him. Now you need to give him somebody to throw to.
Yeah, it really sucked that Kevin White got hurt this year because, well, he doesn't look good when he's on the field. So, you'd want to know, hey, if he is not going to be our number one guy, we'll move on, do we really need to address this position? And, the other big point is they needed him on the field because then Cameron Meredith got hurt and they just had no one at wide receiver position. So Steve, though, doesn't have them going wide receiver. You have them going Connor Williams, offensive tackle from Texas. Explain why.
So, look, I don't think that there are clear wide receivers either. So we talked about edge. Maybe there's not a top 10 wide receiver. It's a little iffy as well at this point. I think the Bears' offensive line is really close to being really good. Charles Leno's been solid at left tackle. I think overachieved a little bit there. Bobby Massey just never really been a great player over at right tackle. But with Josh Sitton, Kyle Long, Cody Whitehair, on paper they should have a good offensive line. I think Connor Williams could round it out really nicely, become that left tackle of the future. He was banged up this past year, was not great in 2017, but his freshman and sophomore year, the best tackle in the country, maybe as a freshman and a sophomore when you combine those 2 years. So smooth in pass protection, mauling second level blocker. He does a lot of nice things, and I think he'd be a good fit here.
Here's my first pick that I hate.
You hate it, right?
First pick that I hate. One, offensive tackles I don't think moves the needle for this Bears team necessarily. Now, while I just think they're solid enough there to where I'm not necessarily going to waste a top 10 pick on a guy who he might not legitimately start right away if Leno and Massey are back. So I don't love it from that perspective, and the perspective that Connor Williams had a down year this year.
He
was injured, looked far worse this year than he did back in 2016, took a big step back. That's not the guy I want to be taking top 10, the guy who took a step back heading into the draft. I just think they could address positions on the defense side of the ball better here, so I'll just say first pick of the day that I'm out on.
I'm glad we made it. I'm glad we made it through 6 without you disagreeing. Those 7.
Those guys always terrify me. The guys that take steps back in the final year before they come out. I'm never sure what to do with that as prospects. It makes sense to me, guys that sort of progress linearly throughout their college career. I can even get on board with the guys that come out of nowhere and have a big year, as long as it's the most recent one, because you expect some kind of development. It's the guys that take a step back and they're suddenly worse than they were 12 months ago that I just don't know what to do with.
Yeah. You drafted him 8th overall, according to Steve.
Draft him 8th, yeah. Grab Connor Williams. I believe in him. I believe in his talent.
Well, sorry, Bears, but you got a bad one. No, I'm kidding. But all right, on to number 9, San Francisco 49ers. You list their biggest need, Sam, as corner.
Yeah, again, this is a team that has a lot of needs. They were struggling to win any kind of games before Jimmy Garoppolo came on board, and it turns out Jimmy G can't be beaten, so that addressed that pretty quickly. But yeah, corner I think is a major concern for this team. They don't have anyone that can shut down any kind of receiver. They shipped off what may have been their best corner, Rashad Robinson, during the season as well. They desperately need some kind of coverage help on the back end.
Yeah, Dante Johnson was not cutting it last year. I definitely think corner is a need there. Steve, though, with the number 9 overall pick, you have the 49ers grabbing Bradley Chubb, defensive end out of North Carolina State.
It's going to look like it's redundant here in San Francisco, grabbing defensive ends every single year, but
they actually need one. That's a need.
That's
though.
a huge need. Is a true edge rusher. Last year they grabbed Solomon Thomas, who by name is an edge, but who's the comparison we used pretty often with him last year? It's Michael Bennett, who was that base down end who kicks inside and rushes from more of a 3 technique position. Of course, the 2 years before that, it was DeForest Buckner. It was Eric Armstead. First off, you can never have too many defensive linemen, but especially when you go from a scheme change or through a scheme change, add a Bradley Chubb, he could become more of a pure edge rusher, and he's, like Solomon Thomas, outstanding against the run as well. So I know we're not going to talk about the run game too much, but if you have Chubb and Thomas up there and DeForest Buckner, you've got a pretty formidable defensive front.
Yeah, I do worry about Chubb getting sort of having his worst game against Notre Dame when he went up against Mike McGlinchey. Only 3 pressures in that one. A bit of a non-factor as a pass rusher. But I do like from the perspective of it does fill a need. And truthfully, Solomon Thomas, I would rather him play nose tackle in that scheme than where he played last year out on the edge. Because when he's right up in front of it, when he can get into an offensive lineman's pads right away, that's where he's at his best. I don't like him playing in space like that. I just think you need to kick him inside. So if you're drafting someone like Bradley Chubb, that'll force that sort of switch, and I think that just makes that defensive line better as a whole. So I like the fit.
I hope they realize that they've been playing Thomas out of position, because it was pretty evident last year that it's not where he should be. It's not where he's best. It was holding him back. So if we get to see a position switch from him this year, I think we'll see a vastly improved Solomon Thomas.
Yeah, he was our top-graded interior defensive lineman against the run his last year at Stanford, and he was doing it for a lot at nose tackle and on the interior. So I mean, he knows how to shed blocks. Now has to rush from the interior as well.
Yep. All right, on to number 10, the Raiders. Sam, you listed corner as their biggest need. No surprise there.
Yeah, again, another team in pretty desperate need of cornerback help. I think they may get some of that if Garyon Conley gets on the field in year 2 and we actually see what he can do. But even if he becomes a star, I don't think a second top corner does him any harm. You've been banging the drum for years, Mike, of you can never have too many number 1 corners. Even if he ends up being an absolute star, adding a second one is not exactly going to hurt your defense. It's going to make you more formidable. So, yeah, I think corner is a good spot for this defense to get better in a hurry and get much better.
Yeah, they're almost assuredly going to cut Sean Smith this offseason with his cap situation. He was a dud there for most of his time in Oakland, and truthfully, they could add any position along the defense. They just have needs everywhere up and down that defensive roster. But Steve has them going the other side of the ball. Throwing running back Saquon Barkley. We had to have another running back as a top 10 pick. It's the trendy thing to do nowadays.
Got to get the running back in there. And look, the running back has to be a factor in the pass game. So as much as I would love to give the Raiders a nice middle linebacker, a nice athletic middle linebacker, or another great interior defensive lineman. I just think Barkley at this point. I mean, we're talking. I was tempted to put him in the top 10, tempted to put him at number 3 to the Colts, where a lot of people are putting him, just because he could do so much in the pass game, not only out of the backfield, you could split him out wide, and I think he helps your run game. So you got Marshawn Lynch in Oakland. You don't have anybody really ready to take the reins at running back. I think adding a playmaker for Derek Carr, for that offense, a guy that can catch the ball out of the backfield in the John Gruden system, whether it's his 10 years ago West Coast offense or something more advanced, you've got a versatile playmaking threat in Barkley.
Yeah, Barkley's interesting to me because I hate him as a between-the-tackles runner. I think he is just going to have a lot of negative plays when you ask him to do that.
He had a lot of at Penn State.
And he had a lot of at Penn State. But when he gets out in space, it's like, he's as good as we've seen in the past handful of years at the running back position in that regard. So that's the way the NFL is trending in terms of how they utilize running backs. So he might be the rare exception that I'm okay with taking in the first round. I'm not going to say top 10 because I still won't take a running back top 10. So I'm still off on that. But we'll see when it's all said and done.
He's not a running back. He's a playmaker. That's my answer for everything.
The thing that jumped out to me with Barkley is how big he is compared with how well he moves. You look at he's listed at 235, something like that, and
Looks
you
like
look
he's
at him.
210,
Yeah.
205.
You look at him move around, and you think, where is all that size? But that's part of the reason he's so difficult to bring down and tackle, because he's a hell of a lot bigger than you think he is when you go trying to stop him.
You see the size when he's cleaning 680 or whatever it was last summer.
Yeah, or when he's leaping over people and you see these tree trunk sized legs
That
sailing
too.
over your head.
That too.
All right, that's the Raiders pick. On to number 11, Miami Dolphins. Sam, you have them as guard as their biggest need.
Yes.
The biggest need for the last 5 to 10 years there, it seems
Yes.
like, ever since they got rid of Richie Incognito.
Yeah, so let's take a swing at it and actually fix it this time. The Dolphins' offensive line has been a fairly major problem for a long time. They've had players that have been able to get by despite that. Jay Ajayi was manufacturing all his own yardage back there with that offensive line, giving him very little to work with, and Kenyon Drake has been doing the same kind of thing. All the yardage has been manufactured by the running back. So let's give these guys some help and actually start opening holes for them.
Yeah, they need a guard. There's an all-time guard still available on the board, but Steve has them going. Iowa cornerback Josh Jackson.
All right, Mr. Positional Value, telling me to take a guard over a corner.
I didn't say which one I would rather take. I just said that was the case.
Listen, 2 years ago, I put Jack Conklin to Buffalo in every single mock draft, and I was like, this is the perfect pick. I was tempted to give the Dolphins Quentin Nelson in every single mock, the guard from Notre Dame. It would be a perfect fit and a perfect selection, but I have pushed Nelson down just a little bit because you have a corner like Josh Jackson that broke out in 2017. Miami's corner situation still very much up in the air. Your boy, Sam, Xavier Howard, your boy, you loved him.
I did not.
No, you actually pegged him is what you did. I'm calling him your boy because you pegged him. You said some days he looks like Richard Sherman, some days he looks like the worst corner in the Big 12. We saw both of those Xavier Howards this year. So there's still so many question marks at corner for the Dolphins. Josh Jackson, top-rated corner this year in 2017. Ball skills, length. I mean, he was just outstanding, and I think we're going to start getting some top 10 hype for him as we get closer to the draft.
Are you worried at all that prior to this season he had only 297 snaps to his name?
Yeah, but I think
there's a one-year wonder kind of
Yes,
guy.
I think that always comes up. We were saying the same thing about Marshawn Lattimore last year. I'm not saying that he is Lattimore, but Lattimore only had a handful of snaps, I think, to his name the previous year. It comes with Malik Hooker. We said the same thing as well. So it just comes with the territory. But he was awesome this year, and there's always a little bit of that risk with the smaller sample.
Now, I love drafting cornerbacks highly. Love this pick. 18 pass breakups this year, 8 picks. He was a monster in 2017. Yeah, I can get on board with that. I might even be taking him higher because I love my corners. All right, on to the 12th overall pick, Cincinnati Bengals. Sam, you have them as offensive tackle, even after drafting one in the first and second round a few years back.
Well, not even after, specifically because
Yes.
they drafted one in the first and second round a couple of years ago, because it turns out both those guys are not very good. They shipped off Andrew Whitworth because he was old and wanted a lot of money.
They drafted
And because they
tackles in the first,
drafted
second round.
offensive tackles to replace him. Only it turns out neither of those could get the job done. So they now desperately need, again, to replace Andrew Whitworth.
And with that needed offensive tackle, Steve has them going Mike McGlinchey, Notre Dame left tackle.
Andrew Whitworth's classmate, Mike McGlinchey.
It's perfect.
Is that right?
Yeah, they're replacing one 35-year-old tackle with another one by the looks of his pictures.
Sam's convinced that Mike McGlinchey's really a 35 to 40-year-old.
Absolutely.
That snuck into Notre Dame. Mike, they would never do that at Notre Dame.
No, they don't break the rules ever.
They would never do that. No, look, McGlinchey, he's been on my radar. He's a fifth-year guy. He's been on my radar for a while. I follow a little bit of recruiting, and he was like 6'8", 270. He just felt like this developmental, kind of a lanky offensive line prospect that's developed into the best run-blocking tackle in the country, and just so powerful when you pair him with Quentin Nelson on the same side. I think there is still some question marks with him in pass protection, but that's if you're holding him to the super high standard of top 5, top 10 type of tackle in the future. I don't know that he'll ever get to that point. I think we might be looking more of like a Nate Solder type of production, where it's this like solid pass blocker. He'll have some games where he gets whooped, but overall you're going to get really good presence in the run game and again a solid pass protector. I like McGlinchey.
I was going to say Anthony Costanzo comp, but I do like.
Those
I still like him.
It's that same range though,
Yeah.
right?
I like him in the first round because all the skills are there, all the traits are there to be a starting left tackle. A the prototypical 10-year starter at left tackle. He has that sort of ability. Inconsistency definitely there on tape, though. 12, maybe high. I don't know, but the Bengals, you can't disregard the need that the Bengals have at the position.
Fifth-year senior, first four of them, 1996 to 2000. Came back for the fifth year.
Sam's hot take on McGlinchey all draft season.
If you came out and told me that this man was 42 years old, I would have no trouble believing it.
We need to fire up. Let's get Mike. Let's get Mike on the horn and get to the bottom of this, Sam.
Absolutely.
All right, 13th pick, Washington Redskins. Sam, you have them with quarterback again and wide receiver.
Well, this assumes that they're not going to get a deal done with Kirk Cousins.
I think
to be honest,
that's a good assumption. At this
nothing would surprise me with that saga. If they signed him long term, I wouldn't be shocked. If they gave him another franchise tag, I wouldn't be shocked. Or if they cut him
transition tag,
or if they cut him loose, nothing would shock me there. So if they don't, obviously they now need to replace the quarterback that wasn't good enough to be their starting quarterback or get paid serious money. Either way, their next biggest need, I think, is wide receiver. They basically revamped the entire wide receiver core a year ago. They shipped out one, they brought in a new one, and it didn't really work out. Josh Doxson kind of flashed some talent. We saw some good stuff. We saw some of the stuff we saw from his TCU tape in college, but it's not enough that you are sold on him as your number one option. You need more guys. Terrell Pryor, brought over in free agency, just didn't look like the same guy I think that we saw the first year playing receiver with the Browns. So when you're managing to downgrade on what the Browns achieved with your players, things have gone wrong. So I think they need at least one more capable starter, ideally a number one receiver there.
Yeah, Doxson and Crowder are the only two returners in that receiving core who played any meaningful snaps last year. Steve has them addressing the need going James Washington, Oklahoma State, wide receiver.
Yeah, Washington's been one of the best deep threats in the nation. And they got that wide open Big 12 offense in Oklahoma State, but he has good ball skills, can track the ball down the field. He has good speed. I think he can get open at the intermediate level, so he can do some nice things. I think Washington, again, the wide receiver class is kind of all over the place. I don't feel great about any one particular guy at the top. Last year at this time, we were like, hey, feeling pretty good about Mike Williams, John Ross, and Corey Davis, I think, as those top guys. I don't know that we're going to have that this year, but Washington has that big playability, and I think certainly does fill a need for the Redskins.
I don't mind Washington here. I think, like I said, wide receiver is a huge need, but you don't think there's any of the quarterbacks left on the board would fit the Washington at this point. You don't think?
I think there's a potential fit there, maybe with Mason Rudolph, who shows up a little bit later. Mm-hmm. But I was working more under the assumption that they do get something done, that they through free agency or somehow with Kirk Cousins.
Gotcha. All right, on to the number 14th overall pick, Green Bay Packers. Sam, you have them with edge as their biggest need. Yeah,
Julius Peppers went back to Carolina this past season. I think they badly missed his edge rush presence. They've been able to cobble together their edge rush, pass rush for the last few years, whether it's Peppers, whether it's good seasons from Nick Perry, the tail end of Clay Matthews being a really effective pass rusher in that role. I think they just need to finally resolve that and get one star edge rusher again and be able to cobble together the kind of complementary pass rush as opposed to the primary pass rush, because Mike Daniels is still so good inside. They just need one guy that's able to consistently bring edge pressure, and then immediately I think you transform that into a really good defensive front.
Yeah, I do agree with Kenny Clark, Mike Daniels, how they rush the passer on the inside. One guy, like one stud, could make that into a legitimate threat along the defensive line. And Steve has them addressing it going Harold Landry, the Boston College defensive end.
Yeah, so Landry was a little bit more productive in 2016, but still good in 2017. I think he has, he could beat tackles to the outside. He's solid against the run. I do think he's an every down, 3-down type of talent. I was really tempted to go wide receiver here, Mike, and just load up load up on some speed for Aaron Rodgers, but
they could use some speed.
But I did opt to go the edge rusher route, and I think Landry has what it takes. I think he's a good fit here.
Yeah, Landry, though, another guy like Sam that we mentioned before, big step back this past season. Only 27 total pressures after
missed a lot of time.
Some injury, but he had 18 sacks back in 2016. Looked like if he would have declared there, he could have feasibly been a first rounder a season ago. I do worry about that, but watch him on tape. He does have the sort of twitch that you like at defensive end, that get off that can win in the NFL. Like I said, the whole edge class, I'm still not sold on any guy being legit at this point, but you can't argue with the need there for the Packers.
Yeah, I think it'll be a good fit. There's a few guys that I think fit that bill that were just like, they were on the radar before the season. There's another guy coming up soon. 2017 did not go exactly as planned, but you still trust what you see going into the year. And some guys were so good that you have to give them the benefit of the doubt.
All right, on to number 15, the Cardinals. Arizona, you have them with quarterback and offensive line as their biggest needs.
Yeah, Carson Palmer retired. We talked about that before. Vacating the ginger talent pool. That left them with a Blaine Gabbert and Drew Stanton-led offense, which was a painful experience to watch. So painful, in fact, that their head coach upped and quit at the end of the season. May or may not be related.
May or may not be.
So, yeah, the Cardinals need a new quarterback. But I don't think that's all. Again, it seems to be every one of these teams that needs a quarterback also seems to desperately need the offensive line that can protect them. And the Cardinals, I think, are in that boat. That offensive line was bad. They have. It's also going to be, I think, a bumpy transition for them because they're moving away from one of the more unique offensive systems in the NFL with that Bruce Arians downfield passing attack. Now you need a new passer. You're going to need new offensive linemen that aren't tailored specifically to that. You got to completely transform what you're doing on offense. I think this could be a rough transition year for them.
Yeah, they could use any position on offense besides running back probably. And Steve has them going Mason Rudolph, the quarterback out of Oklahoma State that we just touched on.
Yeah, Rudolph is going to be, an interesting evaluation. I think I don't know if the entire NFL is sold on him. I think there are teams in the NFL that are sold on him. Big 6'5" quarterback who doesn't exactly zip it and a little inconsistent with ball placement, but like the way he throws the ball outside the numbers is really impressive to me. It's one of the best things he does. He's the guy that's been throwing the ball to James Washington down the field, and it's not always perfection. It's a lot of times it is James Washington going up and making plays in this wide open Big 12. But I think Rudolph has what it takes to efficiently run an NFL offense, to make the intermediate throws that he needs to make. It's just not as dynamic as he doesn't have these dynamic traits as some of these other quarterbacks in the class, but very productive from a PFF grading standpoint, and I think he should be a first-round pick.
I'll just say that I have a theory on quarterbacks that I don't really trust drafting a guy between like 13 and 30, because like in that range, it seems like
someone didn't love you.
Yeah, you would have the traits that someone would love you, but you're still giving up your top pick to go get a guy. It's like I feel like I have no hard data on this, but I feel like quarterbacks in that range just don't turn out well. So
I just think that this class is different. You've got a potential 6 guys going in the first round. The 6th potential guy is not going to make my first round mock. Mm-hmm. Spoiler alert. So this might be the last quarterback off the board here.
Oof.
Yeah, I agree with your take, actually. I think quarterbacks are almost like this binary situation now where you either believe this guy can be the franchise quarterback going forward or you don't. And if you do believe that, you take him the very first opportunity you can possibly get. You go up to get him. You move heaven and earth. You make the trades that Houston made, that Kansas City made. You go get the guy at the top half of the first round. If you don't think he's that good, you sit and wait, and he almost certainly doesn't pan out.
Yeah.
Because even the guys that everybody is sure are that good aren't exactly – they don't have a great strike rate at the moment. So even the ones that you're like 100% sold on as being the future is a crapshoot. The guys that you're, on the fence on, they've got no shot.
All right, on to number 16 overall, Baltimore Ravens. Sam has them with quarterback and wide receiver.
Quarterback?
Yeah.
It's time to wake up and smell what Joe Flacco is shoveling, and it's not nice. He's the elephant in the room there. He's been playing bad for some considerable time, and for some reason, the idea that the Ravens might at some point be moving on from Joe Flacco at quarterback is never comes up. I think that the Ravens are as in need of a quarterback as almost any team in the league, and I just wanted to put that out there. So that's why quarterback was there. Having said that,
I like that you put yourself out there like that.
Having said that, it isn't all Joe Flacco, and the receivers he's had to work with have not been ideal. So let's get Joe Flacco some weapons and then boot him out the building.
We did it.
And we gave Joe Flacco a weapon in Alabama wide receiver Calvin Ridley.
Yes, who is probably the same age as Mike McGlinchey. We're going to use the Calvin Ridley age jokes. And
I was going to say,
old.
are you sure he's not on the downside of his career?
He might be. He may have peaked as a true freshman. So Ridley's got that. I think he's got that downfield speed, the long speed, Mike, if you will. Good enough route runner. It's tough to really gauge what he's capable of in that Alabama offense, which is generally like chuck a deep ball or throw him a screen. But I think Ridley can be a very productive NFL receiver. People are going to question his age, where I believe he'll be 23 by next season. Yep. So that'll come up, especially in the deep, dark analytics community.
He's still young enough to be McGlinchey's son.
That's true. He is young enough to be McGlinchey's. They need to be teammates, I think, Ridley and McGlinchey. They could room together, the mature guys. So, yeah, I think Ridley would be a good fit there, and assuming Joe Flacco will be the quarterback there next year.
Yeah.
But if you're going to give Flacco an excuse over these last couple of years, it is the receivers have been terrible. And again, I was tempted to give him that big guy that could go up and get it, because I do think Flacco at his best, when he trusts his receivers, will let guys go up and get it. He did a nice job with that early in his career. He has not had that guy, but I opted for more of the speed and the guy that gets open.
I'm proud of you for not doing that, because what do we say about contested catch receivers?
They're just not good.
Exactly.
That's all they can do. So yeah, we're anti-contested catch. We're all building off each other's theories and analysis here.
No, I like Ridley a lot. I'm excited to see what he does at the combine. He might be my favorite receiver in this class, and he fits the mold of receiver that Joe Flacco can underthrow with the deep ball perfectly. So
that's what we're going for.
That was supposed to be Brashad Perryman.
Yeah, now they got two of them, but one might not see the field ever. So, all right, and the 17th overall pick is the LA Chargers. We have them with offensive line.
Yep, been a problem for years. Phillip Rivers not getting any younger, still doesn't have the help he needs in terms of protection. We didn't get to see how their attempts to address that last year may have worked out, with Forrest Lamp going down hurt before the season even started. It took a while for Dan Feeney to get in there as well, so I think they've made steps towards improving that, but there's still positions on that offensive line that need addressing.
Oh, yeah.
I'm with you. Steps forward.
Yeah.
Let's add more to it.
Steve goes, Orlando Brown, offensive tackle out of Oklahoma.
Yeah, look, Orlando Brown is massive. He is maybe difficult to evaluate sometimes in that Oklahoma offense when it comes from just a pure pass protection standpoint. He is so big, Mike, I think everybody's going to give him the right tackle only.
Ooh.
Call, right? He's got to
kiss of death.
He's going to be a right tackle because he's so big. In the run game, he just engulfs second-level linebackers. He's powerful at the point of attack. And I think he is solid in pass protection despite this massive right tackle-looking body. So I like Orlando Brown, and I liked last year's picks of Forrest Lamp and Dan Feeney. I do think that they are moving in the right direction there from an offensive line standpoint.
All right. I hate the pick. I'm going to talk about why in just a second. Let's move on to with this next selection, Seahawks 18th overall. You have them with edge as your
Yeah, I do. Cliff Averill, old, slowing down, injured. Michael Bennett, they've talked about potentially moving on from him, or he's talked about them potentially moving on from him. Frank Clark is basically their lone source of pass rush this season, at which point you need to replace, I think, particularly what Cliff Averill brought you in terms of the one quick twitch speed edge rush that's going to get consistent pressure there.
Yeah, very quickly became a need. Steve has them, though, selecting Quentin Nelson, guard from Notre Dame, finally comes off the board, and I'm going to get to why I hate the Orlando Brown pick. It's because I trust Quentin Nelson to play offensive tackle more than I trust Orlando Brown in the NFL right now, even though he never played it at Notre Dame. He is that good at a guard. He has the skill set that I think can translate to offensive tackle. I would move him tackle in the NFL because I think it's that much more valuable of a position, and he can do it, much like I would have moved Marshall Yanda there years ago as well.
Are we going to go public with this take? I want to hear the O-line community and their backlash.
Quentin Nelson should play tackle in the NFL. At least try it.
Well, this is what we said about Forrest Lamp last year. You at least try a guy as a tackle, and if he lands at guard, fine.
Yeah. Taylor, you need to make that the teaser for this podcast is Mike claiming that Quentin Nelson should play tackle. And make sure you tag all the offensive line community in that when you tweet it out.
Is there a hashtag?
So the thing about the offensive line community is like they don't understand the positional value that goes into it. Tackle is far more valuable from a team-building perspective.
Of course it is.
Prevents far more pressure having a good offensive tackle than a good offensive guard. It's just it is. You look at the pay scales for each, and there's a reason. Like an average tackle gets paid more than
You don't understand how hard it is to switch positions, Mike. It's so difficult to take a step out to your right.
Quentin Nelson. It's almost an insult to Quentin Nelson to say you wouldn't move him to tackle. I think I won't
it's an
insult him.
insult to Quentin Nelson.
I won't insult his talent by saying he can't do it.
Well, when the Seahawks draft him at 18, he'll probably play guard, and he'll be one of the best guards in the NFL because we do love him. Yeah. He's awesome in the run game, smooth in pass protection. He absolutely destroys people within the flow of the play, not after the play. I mean, at both, but within the flow of the play when it matters. So Quentin Nelson's awesome. I can't wait to hear the reaction to your take. I don't necessarily disagree. Because, I'm with you, too, as far as tackle over guard. I'm not sure Nelson's that perfect guy to do it, but I'm with you as far as tackle over guard. Is this your favorite player in the world?
He's the best offensive line prospect we've graded in the past. I've done the offensive line scouting for us each year. I think he's by far the best that I've seen, just in terms of just everything.
But it doesn't matter if he plays guard.
Yeah. I would highly doubt he makes it to this point in the actual draft. I think he goes top 10.
He is so good that he is able to unify PFF and offensive line Twitter in one evaluation of a great player.
We will all agree that Nelson's the best.
We love Nelson because he's really good at all the football stuff, and offensive line Twitter loves Nelson because he's really good at jumping on people and smushing them and finishing after the play.
That's the real soundbite. Multiple sound bites coming out of this one today.
All right, let's get on to number 19, Dallas Cowboys. Sam has defensive tackle, either one, as their biggest need.
Yeah, I think so. This is a team that, again, has some problems, could easily stand the interior upgrade. They've been very good on the edge, even though they're potentially losing DeMarcus Lawrence to free agency. That's where they've had their strength, is around the side. They haven't had the same interior push, the same guy that can bring pressure up the middle and complete that defensive line and that defensive group. I think you take a pick, you take a guy that can get the interior force to match up with that edge pressure, and you've got a much more formidable defense to try and combat.
Steve, though, has them addressing probably another need. Michael Gallup, wide receiver out of Colorado State, although they did just extend Terrence Williams and they have Des Bryant under contract. Not sure if he would actually see the field there.
Yeah, well, he should. Because he's awesome. Look, I was very tempted to go to the interior defensive line with Vita Vea. That might be one of my favorite just first-round potential fits, Vea from Washington and Dallas. But I went with wide receiver. I think Gallup he's one of those receivers that can win in multiple ways, not just in contested catches, Sam. He can separate. He does have speed. Unbelievably productive the last 2 years. One of our top-graded receivers both 2016 and 17. So really like Michael Gallup, and I think he will have a bit of a hype train over these next few weeks as the draft season unfolds.
Yeah, the Terrence Williams contract made no sense. I think they could address wide receiver, but I just don't see it happening with that contract being on the books as it is. So, all right, let's go on to number 20, though. The Detroit Lions. Sam has them with edge as the biggest need, with Ziggy Ansah hitting free agency and Kerry Hyder becoming an restricted free agent this offseason as well.
Yeah, and that's the big thing, was Ziggy Ansah hitting free agency. He's their best pass rusher. He had 37 total pressures this past season, and he's scheduled to hit the open market. So unless they bring him back, I think they desperately need someone to replace that production. He was their most productive pass rusher. And even Ziggy Ansah, I don't think, has ever been a real top-tier pass rusher. He's had some years that looked better on paper than I think they really were in terms of pure pass rushing presence. So he's a guy that they could do with replacing and getting a legitimate edge rushing threat.
Steve, though, has them going interior defensive line, which I'd also call a need there in Vita Vea, the Washington nose guard.
Yeah, a couple other edge defenders that I did consider there, but Vea, who we just talked about for Dallas, he's 340. He can move. He can push the pocket. Outstanding run defender, but I'm beyond putting just run-first nose tackles in the first round. I think the NFL is as well. Vea can actually push the pocket. And when you look at Matt Patricia potentially taking that head coaching job, as it's rumored, and now he has his Vince Wilfork or his, whatever big Alan Branch, the big guys that they're used to having in New England, great way to start rebuilding that defensive line in Detroit.
Yeah, Vea probably going to get some Danny Shelton comps being from the same school.
Right.
Shelton, though, 855 snaps his last year at Washington. Vea, 490. Didn't play nearly as much, but Vea had a higher grade, 93.2, compared to Shelton's 89.8, much higher pass rushing grade as well. So, yeah, I don't love nose tackles in the first round. They have to be able to pass rush. I think he might be one of the rare ones that can get it done. On to the Bills at 21 and 22 overall. Sam has quarterback and defensive interior as their biggest needs.
Yeah, quarterback I think is obvious. This is a team that's tried been trying to move on from Tyrod Taylor all season long to the point of benching him when they got the first possible opportunity to do so. The benching proved that Nathan Peterman isn't the way to move on from Tyrod Taylor, at least not short term. There's no way they could sell that to anybody. So I think they're in the quarterback market again. Defensive tackle or defensive interior, Kyle Williams is at the end of his career at this stage. They traded away Marcel Darius, their best interior player, and when they did, that run defense really went to hell. They desperately need an interior presence to shore up that side of the ball.
And Steve has them going with back-to-back picks. Roquan Smith, the Georgia linebacker who crushed it in the playoff, as well as Marcus Davenport, UTSA edge defender.
I'm starting to see some Marcus Davenport hype. I like to think that we were on him pretty early. The preseason draft guide, which was all a part of PFF Edge, we said, look, he looks like a day 2 type of prospect, perhaps ready to move into day 1 with a great 2017. That's what he had. Big, long, 6'7", basically an outside linebacker in that UTSA scheme, drops into coverage, just so strong on the edge. So I love Davenport. I did consider him with the for the Lions at defensive end, and then Roquan, that chase and run linebacker, so quick and just flies to the ball, always seems to be in the right position, short tackler. So look, the Bills had an excellent defense as far as their coverage unit went this past year. I'm with you, Sam, as far as interior defensive line. They got smoked in the run game, and I'd love to add to that offense in Buffalo, but these look like 2 good cornerstone defensive pieces to continue to build that side of the ball.
Yeah, a lot of people look at the Bills and be like, oh, why not? Why wouldn't you draft offense here? I think as long as you have, places you can address on the defensive side of the ball, I think both those positions, linebacker and edge, could be addressed by the Bills. And all of a sudden you turn into, you don't need to be a balanced team to go to an AFC championship. We saw that with the Jaguars. You can win with one side of the ball. You can win with just a dominant defense in today's NFL. So I wouldn't mind that if I'm a Bills fan, just making that side of the ball as good as can possibly be. Roquan Smith, the type of linebacker that you do draft in the first round nowadays. He can do it all. So, yeah, don't hate those picks for sure.
Thanks,
on to
Mike.
23, L.A. Rams. Sam has edge as their biggest need.
Yeah. 23 is indeed the LA Rams. I was one pick ahead of you. I was looking at Panthers with 24. I think the Rams have Aaron Donald dominating up front in the middle. They were at their best when they had Robert Quinn on the edge, having fantastic edge pressure as well. And really, he's declined every single year since that phenomenal 2012 season. So I really think they just need to find that guy again. If they can't get it in Robert Quinn, they need to try and find an approximation for Robert Quinn that can give them the edge pressure to complement Donald coming up the middle. One of the ways that the Falcons were able to essentially mitigate the damage that Aaron Donald was doing to that offensive line inside is that there was nobody there to clean up what he was creating. He would create pressure up the middle. As long as Matt Ryan was able to evade that pressure, there was nobody else cleaning it up and finishing the play. So they need that secondary pass rush threat, even if he's just cleaning up the scraps that Aaron Donald creates.
And Steve addresses that with LSU edge rusher Arden Key.
Yeah, so look, Key was a guy who, goes back to that discussion we've had before, the guy that, may have taken a step back, did take a step back this year, at least from a production standpoint. I think there are reasons for it, though. Had some off-field where we quit the team in spring ball. So that's a factor. And I'm not taking too much
Would
of that.
Would you call that a red flag?
It's a bright red flag.
Yeah.
So the NFL is going to hate that for sure. That's a little bit worse than just sitting out your bowl game. He sat out the spring. And so that'll come up. I think usage pattern-wise, he didn't have a ton of snaps last year. They dropped him to coverage a little bit more and just didn't really unleash him off the edge. But you could see in games when they did unleash him off the edge, he has that natural pass rushing ability. He was the best as far as freshmen and sophomores go. The 2 years he was a freshman and sophomore, he was the top-graded edge defender. So, look, Arden Key has all the skills, and he can replenish that edge position on the Rams defense.
Yeah, Arden Key's weird because it's like realistically, talent-wise, it's top 10 talent in this draft.
Yeah, absolutely.
Probably the best edge rushing talent in this draft, but it's like the red flag we just talked about. Maybe he might not even go in the first round when it's all said and done. So that we'll see what happens with him throughout the process. On to number 24, Carolina Panthers, another team in need of edge, according to Sam.
Yes, another team in need of edge rush. And what I was going to say the last time when I thought they picked 23 is that Julius Peppers and Charles Johnson combined for 588 snaps pass rushing this past season. And those guys also combined for about 78 years of age.
Mike McGlinchey's age.
Yes, exactly. So they desperately need to get younger on the edge. They need to replace that kind of production and improve on that kind of production with some youthful edge talent. Julius Peppers had 13 sacks last season, but he also only had 5 additional hits and 13 hurries. He had a completely disproportional number of sacks to the amount of pressure he got. So those guys were rushing the passer a ton and not generating a ton of pressure.
And Steve, though, has them going a little different way, addressing the offensive line with Arkansas center Frank Ragnow, one of my faves.
So, do we just fire up some Ragnow and Quentin Nelson tape back to back? I mean, we're talking interior.
Don't get me started.
Interior offensive line.
I do that privately.
Best? These might be the two best that we've seen. Private tape, Nelson and Ragnow. Look, he's been the top graded center in the nation the last 2 years. He can play guard as well. The Panthers have Ryan Khalil with 1 year left. Andrew Norwell is a free agent at guard. Either way, this guy's stepping in. He's going to play some football somewhere along the interior offensive line, and he's awesome. You know, you don't want to take too many centers in the first round unless you know you're getting that 10-year starter, Mike. You get that 10-year starter. That's what you need. That's the buzz term. That's what Ragnow is.
Yeah, I'm a fan. I'll let that be known. You guys will hear me talk enough about him throughout the process. On to the Tennessee Titans. Another team in need of edge rusher.
Yep, same kind of story. Their edge rushers, the same kind of deal as Carolina. They're getting old. Brian Arakpo, there we go. Third shot. Is actually still productive despite getting on. Derek Morgan, though, appears to have hit some kind of wall late in his career. He definitely hasn't been as productive as he's been in the past. Either way, I think you need to start getting younger with those two guys there. You can't promise that. Certainly Morgan looks like he's on the downslope. You can't promise that Arakpo is going to stay that productive given his age. It's time to get an injection of youth.
Yeah, and especially with how much they stunted defensively last year. Now they're going to be obviously a different coaching staff coming in, but they could use some speed there. Steve has them going Alabama linebacker Rashaan Evans.
Yeah, it's tough to know exactly what they're going to do schematically, but you know they've been running more of that 3-4 scheme, and they did need an edge rusher. I still think adding speed to the linebacking core would be a big help. Rashaan Evans, excellent athlete. And Evans is a guy that brings versatility to the defense. So if the new coaching staff says, hey, this guy rushed the passer really well at Alabama, let's tap into that. But he's also your classic chase and run linebacker in the middle of the field or on the weak side. Evans can do a lot of different things for a defense. So that's why I think he's a good fit here. You know, as Tennessee, reshapes that back seven that I do think still needs a little bit of work.
Yeah, their linebackers got exposed in their loss against the Patriots. They gave up a ton of yards after the catch in that one. Could not hurt to add some athleticism to that linebacking core. On to number 26, Atlanta Falcons, and it's one that was obvious in their in this playoffs here, right guard as their biggest need.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it was their biggest issue in the playoffs. They got taken to pieces by two very good defensive interior guys in Aaron Donald and Fletcher Cox. But it's been a problem on paper for a couple of seasons now, whether it was Chris Chester or now Wes Schweitzer. That right guard situation, that right guard position is a major problem. And in truth, depending on how much Andy Levitre's got left in the tank, guard period may be an issue for them. So I think they definitely need to target the best guard that they can get at that spot.
Steve, though, has him going defensive side of the ball. Cornerback Denzel Ward.
It is very impressive that Atlanta has gone from a couple years ago where they did not have a deep roster at all to this roster where we're like, no, right guard, that's what you need. That's it. That's how specific it is. So cornerback might not be an actual direct need. I gave them a cornerback at times last year in my mock. I just think more depth there to go with Desmond Trufant, to go with Robert Alford. I know Brian Poole's done an okay job covering the slot. Denzel Ward can cover the slot, can cover outside. It's one of those best player available situations, I think, for them. Just continue to add more depth to the defensive backfield, add even more speed. This is an elite athlete as far as speed and agility goes. You don't see that combination. You have a lot of guys that are just really straight line and can't move. Denzel Ward can. I think it's just another piece to that defense that continues to improve.
Yeah, not necessarily in need. Obviously, with Trufant, Alford, and that secondary to Brian Poole as well. But I love corners. I'm not going to hate the pick.
Mike's never going to disagree.
I'm going to do 32 corners just to get Mike's approval.
I think they could
Quentin
use
Nelson.
corner.
Yeah.
Quentin Nelson, number 1, and then 31 corners.
Playing left tackle.
Left tackle.
I'd be surprised if he lasts that long, though, in the actual draft. I think he's one of the better corners in this draft. I think he goes quite a bit higher than that. All right, on to number 27, though. New Orleans Saints linebacker as their biggest need. You don't love Manti Te'o starting there anymore?
No. I think that defense has gotten a lot better in a hurry. I mean, a lot of that was Marshawn Lattimore coming in. Marcus Williams also had a great rookie season, other than the way it ended. The defensive front has been much better. It's been more than just Cameron Jordan and a bunch of guys that happen to be playing alongside him. They've actually gotten some production out of Sheldon Rankins, out of a bunch of guys up front. Even Trey Hendrickson has chipped in with some pressure there. Linebacker is the obvious hole in that defense. There's just nobody there that is, I think, playing particularly well. Manti Te'o has actually played pretty well this season, but Craig Robinson hasn't been great. A.J. Klein has been pretty terrible when he's been starting, having gotten the chance to start after coming over as Luke Kuechly's backup. The linebacker is where they can use an impact player there.
Steve, though, has them addressing edge rusher in Ogbenaya Okoronkwo.
I think we're just going Obo. That's good, though. Obo Okoronkwo. So he's kind of the opposite of Rashaan Evans, where Rashaan Evans, or similar to Rashaan Evans, really. I mean, Obo rushes off the edge and can potentially move to inside linebacker. So I think it's defensive chess piece. This was if Roquan Smith fell to the Saints, that would be a sweet fit. That would be perfect. I did consider Tremaine Edmonds, the linebacker from Virginia Tech. So I'm with you as far as the need, Sam. I think Obo, though, fits multiple needs because he's versatile, can do different things, and he's that classic, more like 3-4 outside backer type of edge rusher, and I think they could use even more thunder off the edge.
Little undersized, but definitely the production was there at Oklahoma, so we'll see where he ends up going.
Obo.
On to 28. I'm not going to try to pronounce the last name again. On to 28. Pittsburgh Steelers, where Sam has quarterback and edge as the needs.
Yeah, look, Roethlisberger has already come out and said he's coming back. Apparently, you can waver about whether you've still got it for a few years, but once you lose to the Jags in the playoffs, that's enough to make sure you want to come back the next season. So I think, but anyway,
unfinished business.
Exactly. Roethlisberger has been talking about retirement for long enough that they need to find a better long-term plan than we'll figure it out once he quits, because Landry Jones is no franchise quarterback in the future. So if and when Roethlisberger walks away, at some point you now need a succession plan. So I think they're at least in the market again at this point, even if it's not the first round. Again, edge rusher continues to be the Steelers' problem, or one of their problems. They have been looking for new edge rushers for years and years, and consistently swing and a miss with them. They appear to have found one this time in T.J. Watt. I think he is a good edge rusher, a good quality outside linebacker for them. They need more than one, though. They shipped off James Harrison, who was probably still their best edge rusher, and Bud Dupree just isn't that guy, and neither is anybody else they've got in their roster. So I think you could stand to add another edge rusher, although really there aren't that many positions in that defense that couldn't use an upgrade.
I'm going to disagree. I think their biggest need is actually tight end. I think with the way they use their edge rushers, they really just don't use them as pure pass rushers, why they got rid of James Harrison. And Steve addresses tight end here with South Dakota State product Dallas Goedert.
Yeah, look, Dallas is awesome. Our guy,
SDSU.
What?
Wow. SDSU.
Our guy Jordan Plocker's been touting him for a while. I think everybody else has caught on too. Unbelievable athlete, really good size, really incredible production when they've played FBS teams. 8-catch games for over 100, 9-catch games, that type of thing. It could be a red zone threat. And, yeah, if you look at that Steelers offense, we were just talking before the show, they should have been better this year. When you have Le'Veon Bell, when you have Antonio Brown, when you have a breakout season from Juju Smith-Schuster, just another weapon for that offense. Don't completely disagree with what Sam's saying about edge. I just don't know if you really want to draft edges in the first round. 4 out of 6 years would it be? 4 out of 5
Well, certainly
years?
not unless you get better at identifying them.
Well, yeah, maybe get better at identifying too.
You know my thoughts about drafting tight ends in the first round, so I'm going to say I hate the pick. You saw the 3 most disappointing teams last year: New York Giants, Tampa Bay Bucs, Cleveland Browns. What did they all do in the draft?
First round tight ends.
Coincidence?
Are you writing down
maybe,
all the stuff where you were right? Because this is important.
I don't write down when I'm wrong, that's for sure. All right,
I will.
Yeah, we need to start doing
that.
All right, on to 29, Jacksonville Jaguars, quarterback, offensive line, biggest needs.
Yeah, Blake Bortles, a quarterback, definitely not a great option going forward. There's 3 Blake Bortles, though. There's the bad one that can forget functionally how to throw a football mid-game. That obviously is a problem. There's the good one that can go on a stretch of 3 quality games in December and look like a viable quarterback moving forward. But I think the median, the average Blake Bortles is just not good enough to be your franchise quarterback moving forward. So I think they need to find another option there. Again, with the teams needing quarterbacks, they also need an upgrade on the offensive line. Though you wouldn't know it from this previous week against Pittsburgh where they absolutely dominated them. But really, Brandon Linder has been the only real quality performer on that offensive line this season. All the other positions I think could use an upgrade. I don't think they will upgrade at left tackle because they're still going to have faith in the upside of Cam Robinson, but certainly I don't think he's yet demonstrated that he could be anything special going forward. So offensive line.
Steve, though, has him going wide receiver. Cortland Sutton out of SMU.
Big, long frame, contested catch guy, but he could do a little bit more than that. Jags are a weird team as far as mocks go last year. Remember last year at 4? We're like, there's no real need, and we're debating, and we don't really want to take a running back like they did with Fournette. We wanted to give him Marshawn Lattimore. That's right. That's what we wanted to do. I do think now, though, Allen Robinson, free agent, Cortland Sutton, add that other nice big wide receiver to the mix.
Yeah, if you keep track at home, that's Colorado State wide receiver, South Dakota State tight end, and SMU wide receiver, all in the first round. Steve's mock.
Yeah, not just big names here.
Yeah, we go deep here at PFF. All right, on to number 30 overall. The Eagles with wide receiver as their biggest need.
Yeah, and they've been trying to fix that for a while. They brought in Alshon Jeffrey. They gave him the extension. I think that's one of those positions locked up. The move from outside to the slot for Nelson Aguilar, I think, probably solves that as well. He's looked dramatically better there. But I think they could use an upgrade at the number 2 spot, over Torrey Smith. I think they need another guy, ideally a guy that is their kind of prototypical deep threat, because with Carson Wentz in-house, you've got a quarterback that could really take advantage of a deep threat like that who can also start opposite those 2 guys.
Steve has them not addressing tackle, though, 1 year early, a la the New Orleans Saints last year in Tyrell Crosby out of Oregon.
Yeah, I think you have to get ahead. When you get a guy like Jason Peters is old, and Tyrell Crosby's had a solid career at Oregon, played right tackle, played left tackle. I think he's a good player. Yes, the Eagles could use depth in a couple other places since, I don't know if we're sold on them for the future, right? They overachieved a little bit this year in a few spots, so they could address those, but I think tackle is one of those from a team-building standpoint. Get ahead of it as much as you can.
Yeah, I don't hate doing that from a team-building perspective, like you said. On to 31st overall, Minnesota Vikings. This isn't homerism here. This is based on Super Bowl odds, so don't shoot the messenger here. QB and O-line as biggest needs. Quarterback? I mean, I guess.
Well, look, they have 3 of them, and none of them are under contract. So
yeah.
They need a quarterback. They may well be bringing back 1 or 2 of the 3 that they have scheduled for free agency. But as of now, they need a quarterback for 2018 because they don't have one under contract. So I doubt that gets addressed in the draft. I think they're going to bring back at least one of those guys to be their starter. But whatever. It's a need at the moment. I think their other need is still the offensive line, though. I think that's the thing that's potentially going to hold them back in the playoffs this week, maybe against Philadelphia, going up against that defensive front. It almost cost them against the New Orleans Saints this past week, where Cameron Jordan was just able to tee off against particularly right tackle Rashad Hill there. They've made steps to address this offensive line. They brought in Riley Reif, Mike Remmers last season, Pat Elflein at center. They still need more help there.
And Steve, though, has them addressing it with Colton Miller, UCLA offensive tackle.
By the way, full disclosure, I've seen various sources say the Saints are picking above the Steelers and the Steelers are picking above the Saints. So I guessed Saints over Steelers. So by the time you're reading this or listening to this, it may be different on the website. 49ers and Raiders up at the top of the draft also need to flip a coin.
Okay.
So that was a bit of a guess. Just wanted to get that disclaimer out there. Yes, so I went Colton Miller, UCLA, 6'8" tackle, had a really nice breakout season this year. The rest of the offensive line in UCLA hasn't been great, but he's pretty smooth in pass protection and absolutely destroys people in the running game, and I like Miller quite a bit. So what does Minnesota end up doing with these guys? You got Mike Remmers over there. They signed him to play right tackle. Can you kick him inside the guard, have Miller step in, and have Riley Reif on the other side, and you're building a pretty good offensive line there? What do you think?
Yeah, it quietly has been an issue, though.
Yeah.
It really has been, even though they did sign him. They're kind of winning despite it.
They've crept back toward average, but not that much.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Remmer signed a 5-year, $30 million contract, 10.5 of which was guaranteed. It's not enough, I think, to wed you to Mike Remmer's long term if you find a real option at right tackle. If they discover a right tackle in the draft, they can step in there day one and perform to a decent level. I think you would probably get 1 year of them trying Mike Remmer's playing guard, where he becomes the problem there, and then they get rid of him and they move on. So I think offensive line definitely still needs to be addressed at the draft, and if nothing else, it gets cheaper long term if you do that.
All right, last pick of the draft, 32 overall, New England Patriots. Sam has quarterback as a need again, predicting Tom Brady's demise once again, as well as
never learn your lessons.
Defensive line
since 2013. No, look, it's not necessarily because Tom Brady is declining. It's because they just shipped off both of his backups, and he's 40 years old. So at some point, we need to start the heir apparent replacement thing again. We're going to need to find the new quarterback of the Patriots going forward. It doesn't mean the guy needs to start in 2018, but quarterback has to be a need for this team because Tom Brady can't possibly give up his spot to Brian Hoyer going forward.
No, Brady's got 10 more years, so
yeah,
don't worry about it.
Beyond quarterback, I think they need help on the D-line. That's been an issue this season. They've been without Alan Branch for a lot of the year. They've really had Trey Flowers being the only guy that's standing up and being an impact player for any kind of consistent stretch. I think they need some more quality performers inside the D-line.
Steve, though, has them, in all likelihood, waving goodbye to Malcolm Butler and selecting Isaiah Oliver, Colorado cornerback.
Yeah, so that was a factor. Yeah, the fact that they were looking to trade Malcolm Butler last year. He's a free agent. They signed Stephon Gilmore to the big deal last year, so let's get the guy opposite him. Isaiah Oliver, good length and shows up on the field. He's got pretty good deep speed as far as sticking with receivers. He had a nice little battle with Michael Gallup earlier in the year, the other first-round pick over at Colorado State. So Oliver's a good player, and I think he has a chance to sneak in maybe back end of the first round or be a second-round player. I did look at quarterback a little bit because Josh Allen, who people are touting as a top 10 pick, I feel like I would be comfortable taking him in the second maybe as a developmental guy. Okay? But I didn't do it. But I did not do it.
Wow.
No. I like the pick, though, because the Patriots, they know the value of cornerbacks. They're one of the few who stockpiles them.
If I want Mike's approval, I'm going all corners, all Nelson. I got
stockpiles them. So I'm not going to hate a cornerback pick. I'm just not.
Ever.
The two teams with no picks in the first round, Texans, same at offensive line. No explanation necessary. That was probably the worst offensive line in the NFL this year. And then Chiefs, cornerback. Again, probably no explanation needed. They signed Jarrell Revis instead of, using the actual cornerbacks on their roster. So obvious needs there for both of them. Go check out Sam's piece on the website. We'll put a link in the podcast description. Go check out Steve's mock draft on the website starting tomorrow, Thursday. Can't put a link in because it's going up, and you guys are getting the free preview here today. So we'll be doing a draft show every week, all the way up until the draft, maybe a couple per week after the season ends here. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll be back with a preview of the games on Friday.